Need a laptop that's built to perform and designed to last all day? Select Windows 11 PCs starting at $499.99 are now at Best Buy. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
Meet the new iSims, the single talent acquisition platform that's fully future-ready. It works wherever and however you hire, with insights no one else offers. One solution that fits seamlessly into your existing tech stack, which is why IT and HR leaders trust it. With the best of enterprise-grade software and AI, iSims helps you identify and secure the right talent faster. iSims, powering exceptional hiring. Learn more at isims.com.
In the fourth hour of the night, we enter an entirely new netherworld region, especially dark and dry. Its name is Rosatau, and in ancient Egypt, its literal meaning is act of towing. The sunbark has become stuck in the shallows, making rowing along the flowing water impossible. With arduous labor, the assisting deities must tow the bark through the sandy region of this nocturnal hour. The life-giving fertility of Vernes and the gentle light of Osiris's fields have vanished, yet the god remains intimately present in this hour. In this land of silence, the darkness is so intense that even the sun god cannot see those who dwell on its banks. He can only hear their voices. The barren desert teems with snakes, whose fiery breath illuminates the impenetrable darkness with a pale and ghostly light. This is Sokar's sandy land, and we will refer to the fifth hour of the night as the Cavern of Sokar. The pyramid texts of the Old Kingdom identify Sokar, originally the falcon-headed god of death in the Memphite area, is identified as a god of the earth. 1. In his realm, the stream of life runs dry, and there is not enough water to carry the sun's bark over the shallows. The continuity of creation would only face serious challenges with the support of the four deities who tow it and their rope. Creation's continuity would face serious challenges. Here, the sun god most definitely needs his entourage's help. The sun god has transformed his bark into a double-headed serpent, the only creature capable of successfully traversing this dangerous region of the snake demons. Doors repeatedly block the sun god's journey, splintering the previously clear stream of the netherworld into a confusing zigzag path. In this imagery, we see a psychological truth. There are times when obstacles bar the way to the further development of an individual, or even a whole nation. Times when the dominant consciousness is in dire need of renewal, for it is morbid, no longer serves the flow of life, and is inadequate to the present situation and its requirements. In such times, the individual might easily fall into a severe depression. Nothing seems to move anymore. One can wait for that moment when the supportive deities towing the sunbark, psychologically some auxiliary inner figures within the unconscious, become active and overcome the present stagnation on a conscious level. Furthermore, this would destabilize the prevailing political or religious dogmatic order at the national level, ultimately leading to its collapse. In such chaos, renewal will be successful only when nourished by the underlying archetypal stream of life, i.e., the vivid and enlivening spirit. The introduction to the fourth hour informs us that there is ample provision for those residing in this enigmatic region. Despite the darkness that prevails, the blessed dead are not in want, for the necessities of life are available. Psychologically, this implies that even amid darkness, such as a state of depression, we can still possess the necessary life energy, albeit with restricted access from ego consciousness. The collective unconscious conceals most of our energy during such periods, facilitating re-renewal. We will discuss this motif later. At the individual level, these periods leave us feeling somehow paralyzed, sad, depressed, and powerless. And yet, contrary to the peculiar stagnation we consciously experience, the psychic world of the unconscious is even more alive than usual, which can cause a dangerous imbalance between the inner and outer worlds. In the I Ching, hexagram 36 shows how to deal with such a fatal situation. The hexagram's fundamental theme is the darkening of light. The sun has sunk under the earth, and the earth has darkened. The hexagram's name literally translates to wounding of the bright. This is precisely the situation in the land of Sokar, where the fire, i.e., the sun, has sunk under the earth and is now the son of night. In such times, according to the I Ching, one must maintain his inner light while remaining outwardly yielding and tractable, for perseverance must dwell in the inmost consciousness and should not be discernible from without. In social interactions, avoid trying to be all-knowing and allow many things to pass without succumbing to deception. In a metaphorical sense, these words aptly depict a behavior appropriate for the land of Sokar, a state where psychic energy resides deep within the earth or within the unconscious. Again, the very beginning of the introduction to the fourth hour states the matter clearly. This great god pauses as they tow him into the mysterious cavern of the west with protected forms. With his voice, he cares for those inside the cavern, even though he cannot see them. More than anything, a transformation of consciousness, rising from the depths to the surface from which it will emerge, requires stillness and persistence. It is much more a matter of being towed and carried along like the sun god than an active forward movement. In the Amduat, even the powerful god Re has to dedicate himself entirely to a transformation process, whose innermost structure stems from a fate to which not even his divine will has access. An individual involved in such a transpersonal event needs most to live in their innermost consciousness and awareness, as indicated by the I Ching. Only then can they gain the correct mental attitude to be open to just that kind of transformation, whose origin lies in the innermost part of the psyche, that is, in the collective unconscious. In this life situation, any attempt to use various tricks and means to alter the external, potentially painful situation is futile, as the transformation will occur naturally and solely within the individual. Let us take, by way of example, a hitherto harmonious and uncomplicated relationship between a man and a woman. One day, their love affair will thwart this relationship. Almost overnight, all sorts of seemingly insuperable obstacles arise between the two. In the beginning, they might discuss the problems, trying to provide clarification, but soon they will realize, to their bitter disappointment, that nothing of that sort will help. The time to solve the problem might not yet have come. Both parties are still determining the future of their relationship, uncertain about its continuation. We must endure this painful situation with alertness, not fatalistic, but with that innermost consciousness that recognizes and follows the subtle psychic activities of the unconscious. In psychotherapeutic practice, we often see people who are too weak and agitated to persevere, patiently and successfully, through such a severe conflict in love. Instead, they desire to create facts and take destiny into their own hands. In most cases I have followed, such efforts change nothing. Merely altering the outer situation is usually useless. In such cases, what really matters is a shift rooted in deep psychic layers, i.e., a transformation process that originates in the collective unconscious. For only this can fundamentally change someone or something, or, as the Amduat puts it, pierce the mysterious way of future development. In the fourth nocturnal hour, the sunbark gets a name for the first time: piercing the way. The Egyptian word for piercing incorporates the determinative, a hieroglyph that signifies the category of a word's meaning, of a knife, a cutting tool, and words that describe how a weapon or a serpent's bite pierces. Though the sun god is pausing while being towed, he may engage partially. Psychologically, the image of the cutting knife points to alertness, which is the aforementioned innermost consciousness. Just as the sunbark pierces its way through the darkness like a serpent, so amid the dark clouds of depression, the individual can find assistance in alertness that renounces grandiose plans or ideas about their future. The person who has come to a dead stop in their life will need to follow the very long path. For as the Rosarium Philosophorum tells us, nature completes her work only gradually. 3. According to the alchemist Maureenus, the mind's darkening and suffering correspond to the opus's initial stage. Its origin is the invasion of completely foreign content from the unconscious into consciousness, which the consciousness initially finds difficult to integrate. During this initial stage, accepting the unleashed opposites of the interior as part of oneself is difficult. We must leave redemption from such a conflict, no matter how painful, to the healing powers of the unconscious. Our task is merely to be as aware as possible of this process and to retain an open, sharp, and conscious mind, the image of the piercing knife. That is, paradoxically, possible only with the aid of a sane, instinctive disposition, the image of the piercing serpent. Such an accepting and conscious awareness of psychic images, along with the tive acceptance of their emotional and affective quality, depressive feelings, can strongly stimulate the healing powers of the unconscious, thus improving the transformation process. We cannot determine the length of this transitional stage through the dark regions of depression, because the unconscious follows its own rules. By depicting the sunbark of the fourth hour in the form of a double-headed serpent, the author of the Amduat has made it clear that in this wasteland, healing can come only from instinctive and archetypal forces, that is, from the snake demons and deities, that lie deep within us. What is required is not ego consciousness and intellect, not the gleaming light of the daytime sun, but the mysterious spirit of the serpent and the earth. This spirit is the dim consciousness that remains instinctively connected to and focused on the enlivening images of the unconscious and the netherworld.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail.
Hi, this is Zoe Deutsch.
And Nick Robinson. Our brand new movie, Voicemails for Isabel, is all about those little moments that feel like the universe is looking out.
Feeling homesick, then your sister calls.
Hearing that perfect song exactly when you need it. Sometimes life rigs things in our favor, like learning about your new favorite rom-com, Voicemails for Isabel. Now playing only on Netflix.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Timor Dei initium sapientiae. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Proverbs 1-7. This famous biblical saying is the most appropriate motto for all who have embarked on the dangerous journey of the fourth and subsequent nocturnal hours, or for all who are about to proceed into the realm of the collective unconscious, which normally does not happen by one's own will but by fate. You cannot accomplish this transition alone, and certainly not with a heroic attitude. Instead, it necessitates the inner self's psychic forces. Religious traditions always require one or more assistants to accompany and support the initiate. The gods towing the bark, who have a particularly intimate connection with the sun god through their tow rope, personify these assistants in the fourth hour. Such supportive figures can appear as unexpected visitors in our dreams. Notwithstanding their often plain and modest appearance, such a figure can have a profound and lasting effect on the dreamer. They perceive that the visitor, sometimes immediately and sometimes after a while, has a mysterious knowledge, for the visitor comes from another, transpersonal world. C.G. Jung developed a way to communicate with such figures, calling it active imagination. It requires reducing the light of consciousness to near extinguishment, leaving only a sliver of consciousness to receive messages from the unconscious. Images may emerge from the collective unconscious, or a dialogue with a figure within oneself may begin. If we use active imagination over a long period, certain inner figures will gradually become extremely helpful and supportive companions who, time and again, reveal their mysterious knowledge and wisdom to us. What are the tow rope's secrets and symbols? The rope, which connects the sun god and his assistants, the towers and the rope, symbolize an eternal connection between various archetypal powers forged by fate. In dreams, such a rope may indicate an inner relationship between consciousness and the collective unconscious. Twice in this hour of the night, the motif of the rope finds special emphasis. In the name of the region, Rosa Tau, action of towing, and in the four gods preceding the bark and towing it, each of whom has a name referring to the tow rope. In the following hours, we shall encounter this rope motif again, symbolizing an inner divine connection between the sun god and his surroundings. However, the fact that it already occurs in the fourth hour shows that a new psychic relatedness is beginning to emerge well before Ray's actual transformation in the sixth hour. This relatedness will continue until he is finally born at sunrise the following morning. In psychological terms, this means that although darkness, depression, and fear have greatly reduced our connection to the outer world, a new inner psychic connectedness within the archetypal realm is becoming real. Henceforth, every true transformation and renewal of conscious attitude will come only from this revival of the unconscious. In shamanic initiation rituals, the rope represents the shaman's connection to the transcendent spirits of the beyond. From a psychological perspective, they understand their eternal connection to the archetypal collective unconscious. If, as the I Ching describes it, a wounding of the bright, or light, has taken place, and if the conscious mind no longer knows how to proceed, ego consciousness must adopt precisely that attitude that the sun god assumes at the beginning of the fourth hour, pausing while being towed. Rest and wait until supportive forces congregate in the deeper layers of the unconscious, as only these forces can facilitate regeneration. That Sokar's wasteland is full of snakes is not surprising, given the darkness of this hour. In dreams, many snakes can indicate an initial stage of dissociation. A swarm of bugs, insects, worms, or other vermin may express the same condition. In the fourth hour, a complete blackout of sunlight threatens the gradual descent to the deepest point of midnight, potentially causing a cosmic catastrophe. Psychologically, this indicates a dissolution of the field of consciousness, as we can see in a psychotic reaction. As dangerous and destructive as a dissolution of the dominant consciousness can be, it is nevertheless the indispensable precondition of renewal. This idea is prevalent throughout alchemy. For instance, the 17th century treatise Chemical Wedding ends the bloody celebration with the decapitation of all participants. Despite this bloody ritual, the Virgin consoles the initiate, saying, "Such a death makes one even more alive." Like the pausing sun god in the Amduat, she counsels the adept to sleep and stop worrying about such events. We should go to sleep and stop worrying, as they, i.e. the decapitated ones, AS, will receive fair treatment. Indeed, shortly after, the initiate discovers an egg from which a small bird hatches. Initially small and inconspicuous, it gradually grows thanks to the food it receives. It changes color several times until, finally, it has grown into an exquisite bird. After taking a bath, it sheds all its feathers, undergoes a decapitation similar to that of wedding guests, and ultimately burns into ashes. But from these ashes, the alchemist forms a little boy and girl, such as one has never seen before. The alchemist administers the bird's blood to them orally, resurrecting them to new life, and soon after, they transform into a royal couple of celestial beauty. The divine couple in the treatise symbolizes that form of love that C.G. Jung has called the eternal connection through fate. 5. It is the highest stage of love, representing the transpersonal archetypal source of every true and vivid love. However, this source reveals itself only after the dissolution of an individual's former attitude, and since this is often a painful and lengthy procedure, the alchemical images do not lack certain cruelty and strangeness. We should not accept the Virgin's certainty that such death will make one even more alive without reservation, as we can never truly know whether new life will emerge from Negredo and chaos, or whether the destructive aspect will ultimately prevail. In Rostau's wasteland, darkness threatens, but the Book of the Dead gives the dead hope. I've opened the doors at Rostau. I have alleviated Osiris's pain. Where does this faith in the healing of the sun god originate? In this fourth hour of the Amduat, we find various answers. Let us focus on the lower register's final scene to the right. Its most prominent symbol is a winged sun disk, known as Khepri. The winged Khepri beetle, in sharp contrast to the sun's standstill on the sandbank, foreshadows the agility and liveliness of the sun god in his juvenile form. In the desperate depths of this desert, his renewal has already commenced. Still, this renewal of consciousness cannot yet reach the clarity of daylight. In the firmament of the nocturnal sky, the winged god appears for the time being. The 14 heads, each with a sun disk above it and a star below it, may have an astronomical significance that remains unknown to us, but they certainly also express the consolation afforded by the sparkle of the nocturnal sky. The night sky's brilliance, a detail from the fourth hour, radiates a mild light, even in this gloomy region of the netherworld. The preceding figure, called He Who Is in Heaven, belongs to the nocturnal sky, as does the goddess Ma'at at the end of the register. Her presence unambiguously demonstrates that the divine order of creation does not cease in this dark region. However unpleasant it may be, in psychological terms, this depiction of Re's morning form of the Khepri beetle in the nocturnal sky symbolizes a new consciousness emerging from the darkness of the unconscious, a content that can be recognized only intuitively for the present. This figure represents the principle of individuation in statu nascendi. This kind of intuitive recognition, I almost want to call it a mystical experience, requires an abaissement du niveau mental, lowering of the level of consciousness, as we need to dim the light of ego consciousness slightly to recognize the psychic contents, which are initially weak, as they gradually emerge from the unconscious. The mystics and alchemists also knew about these sparkling nocturnal lights of the soul, which they called scintillae, little sparks. A new conscious attitude can gradually emerge from these isolated and disconnected contents of consciousness, and the image of the Khepri beetle, or the winged youth of the alchemists, can symbolize a new psychic content. The content is currently latent in the unconscious, but it will become clear enough to integrate into the ego consciousness in the 12th hour of the Amduat. The ambivalence between the threatening standstill of the sun bark and the psychic experience of aliveness emerging from the light of the night sky mirrors an experience well known to many people. Amid a dark period in our lives, when everything we do and becomes meaningless, for the great doubter beclouds our senses and minds, amid melancholy and fear, suddenly and most thoroughly unexpectedly, a vivid source can open up, a source whose healing power will not miss the mark in its effect on us. At first, we may not trust the newly flowing water of life because the doubter might spoil it again. But the longer it continues, the more freely it will flow until we realize, this is me. A new, hitherto unknown side, or an ancient part of the human soul that long ago sank into the unconscious, awakens to new life. But with this observation, I anticipate the actual course that Re's journey will take. Here we are still in the 4th hour, far from the deepest point of midnight, and farther still from all the jubilation that will occur in the 12th hour of the night. Whenever the winged sun disk illuminates the inner nocturnal sky of the psyche, we may predict a future psychic development in someone's life. A dream, for instance, can reveal such a purposeful image to us, though we can never know how long this state of pregnancy will last, nor can we know whether this child of our soul will be healthy and capable of life. Unconscious processes are part of nature, so despite all of nature's laws, they always remain unpredictable. In the I Ching, we find a second hexagram whose content corresponds to the Amduat's 4th nocturnal hour. Hexagram 47, oppression, exhaustion, speaks of an empty lake, for its water has flowed into deeper regions. The lake is above, the water below, making it an image of oppression and exhaustion. According to the accompanying commentary, a strong man remains cheerful despite all dangers. Such stability is stronger than fate. A person who surrenders to exhaustion undoubtedly lacks success. Adversity bends a man, but also instills in him a power of reaction that will eventually manifest itself. There is no water in the lake, an image of exhaustion. This continues the text as an illustration of an adverse stroke of fate in human life. In such times, there is nothing a man can do but accept his fate and remain true to himself. This concerns the deepest stratum of his being, for this alone is superior to all external fate. As suggested by the I Ching, the patience and ability to endure difficult periods of life successfully form Osiris's real secret. The Chinese Book of Changes expresses this point beautifully. Unfavorable circumstances sometimes interrupt the flow of life, and it is precisely such circumstances that enable us to reach deeper layers of our own being, provided that amid all our distress, we remain persistent and do not attempt to escape our fate. We must move step by step, just like the striding man we see in the fourth hour's final scene. This last point brings us back to the Amduat. The contending of Horus and Seth for the rule of Egypt included both episodes of physical combat and a lawsuit before a divine tribunal, and we find several allusions to this lawsuit in the images of the fourth hour. In the upper register, we see an example of a god standing between the upright snake and the three-headed winged serpent, he who separates the two gods. This god can only be Thoth, the divine messenger, and scribe who came to the Egyptian god of wisdom. This archetypal motif of the fraternal feud has come down to us in various cultures' records, including the story of Cain and Abel in the Hebrew Bible. Seth is a god of instinctive urges. He is aggressive, battle-tried, and impulsive. 8. Whenever he finds the opportunity to cause confusion, he does so. His depiction as a hippopotamus embodies his brute force, the law of the jungle. Psychologically, he represents demonic energies, destructive autonomous effects, irresistible impulses to act, and uncontrollable emotions. In short, all those aspects of our life that Jung called the shadow. In a violent myth episode, Seth tears out Horus's eye, thus metaphorically obstructing his blind instinctive drive and the development of higher insight and consciousness. Yet, the end of the myth suggests that Seth's demonic nature also has a healing function. We shall encounter this rescuing aspect in the seventh hour of the Amduat, when Seth surrenders himself entirely to the service of the sun god. With the assistance of Isis, he protects the sun god and his entourage from the evil attack of Apophis. Horus, the son and heir of Osiris, for Seth is Osiris's brother, and thus not his rightful heir, is Seth's antagonist. Though his physical strength is inferior to Seth's, he eventually prevails. In extreme contrast to Seth, Horus is patient and moderate, but also, and in this respect his real power becomes visible, of an astute and cunning nature. This quality enables him to draw the benevolence of numerous other deities, particularly Isis, renowned as the most cunning one. The Egyptians considered the complementary structures of life far too important to remain unseen. One way or another, these mythical antagonists had to be accepted. The struggle between the two enemies could not end with the complete annihilation of the dark and evil forces as represented by Seth, nor was it possible to project the evil outwardly in some scapegoat psychology. In the Egyptian view of things, there could be no attempt to find a way to make it seemingly non-existent. Rather, it had to remain a reality, always present with all the threats it posed. This acceptance that opposites never resolve, but instead endure, consistent in all their problems and polarity, reveals the richness of Egyptian thought. Let us reminisce about the double-headed symbol we encountered in the second hour. The mythological tradition suggests various ways to resolve the feud between Horus and Seth, and the issue between Osiris and Seth that led Seth to assassinate his brother. Here, we do not need to discuss the various versions of the myth that have been preserved for us, for however the respective solution may appear in these versions. What really matters is that in each case, each of the sides in the conflict does indeed end up with rights of his own. These conflicts lead to a new world order in which Osiris gains sovereignty over the dead, Seth receives sovereignty over the desert and foreign lands, and Horus assumes sovereignty over the united realm of Upper and Lower Egypt. In her book On Dreams and Death, Marie-Louise von Franz describes this basic fact as a transformation from egocentrism to ego-consciousness. She continues, all of our shadow impulses lead to the egocentrism of desire, of effect, of the impulses of will. At all costs, and often childishly, one wants to have one's own way. If the ego succeeds in making these impulses conscious and subordinating them to the self, to the God within, then its fiery energy is transformed into realizing its identity. The ego then recognizes its just so-ness. The lead coffin, initially perceived as confining, metamorphoses into a mystical vessel, instilling a sense of preservation and containment, including the ability to maintain composure. This lead coffin is an allusion to one of the versions of Osiris's myth. In this version, Seth locks his brother in a lead coffin and throws him into the waters of the Nile, thus sealing his fate of death. This imprisonment in the darkness of the grave or the netherworld will be the main topic of the next hour, the cavern of Sokar. Regarding the God within, who lies hidden in the coffin, we have already met his future in the symbol of the winged sun disk, the Khepri beetle. In the fourth hour of the Amduat, the various allusions to the myth of Osiris announce a new theme, the beginning of a consciousness transformation. The middle register's central image represents the god Thoth. Traditionally, he appears to be the one who settles the quarrel in the myth's versions. In this scene, he presents the sacred eye to Osiris Sokar, constantly threatened by the forces of darkness. Thus, the image alludes to Horus's injured eye, which Thoth helps to renew. But apart from this, the eye offered to Osiris Sokar symbolizes light, which in Egyptian texts is often described as the eye of the god, and which is safely protected by the earth god Sokar in the dark realm of this region of the night. This motif of the loss of the eye of Horus and its restoration reflects an important psychological dynamic. The loss and destruction of an old attitude anticipates every genuine transformation process and consciousness renewal. Once this occurs, one can no longer perceive many things in the same manner as before, even though many others continue to perceive them. Losing one's old Weltanschauung can be quite painful, since it may easily lead to breaking up old friendships. Once the myth's antagonists fight and separate ego consciousness from the unconscious, the healing eye of Horus can emerge from this loss. Each growth of consciousness leads to a clearer awareness of the objective psychic and pre-conscious totality, out of which again and again, ego consciousness regenerates and finds itself extended. The inner eye of Osiris Sokar, gifted to him by the divine messenger Thoth, psychologically symbolizes this regeneration amid darkness. It symbolizes that introverted attitude that the German poet Rainer Maria Rilke once called Weltinnenschau, the inner view of the world, a recognition and awareness of the inner life in the realm of the dark night of the soul. Unlike the active recognition of ego consciousness, the inner eye incorporates an intuitive awareness that originates in the dark spirit of matter and is more of a spontaneous insight, in German, Einfall. It is not that I have recognized something, but that it occurred to me. This inner light is the indispensable precondition of any creative work. According to the Egyptian view of man, the K-soul contains insight. Knowledge and vitality originate in Osiris's domain. In the upper register of the fourth hour, we find a god in the form of a two-headed serpent called Neheb-Kau, a name that appears as early as the pyramid texts, spell 340. According to Kurt Sether's scholarly commentary on the pyramid texts, this god is the one who returns the eternal forces of the Ka soul to those who have successfully passed the judgment of the dead. In the ancient Egyptian view of the totality of an individual, there is a multiplicity of physical and psychic parts, all mutually related. This is true not only in this life, but also for life in the hereafter. This fact underscores the Amduat's immense urgency in uniting the soul with the body, the corpse, and the Ka. Only this union guarantees the deceased will recover their entire life and integrity. The concept of personal wholeness encompasses not only the body, often referred to as flesh in the books of the Netherworld, which is not soulless due to the absence of dead matter in ancient times, but also the Ba, the Ka, the heart, which serves as the seat of intellect and emotions, the shadow, which, unlike the term shadow in analytical psychology, signifies a partial soul roaming above and beneath the earth, i.e., in the netherworld. And lastly, the name. The deceased's body, lying at rest, connects with the Ka, whereas the freely moving and thus bird-shaped Bay soul does not. At death, the Ka, or life force, leaves the deceased's body. Only the magical and ritualistic reunification of the deceased's body and their Ka soul will ensure the deceased's future protection by this soul. The texts inform us that the Ka is always the intended recipient of the offerings made to the deceased, such as food and drink. These material offerings can revive the Ka's energy. In spell 105 of the Book of the Dead, the deceased declares, "Hail to you, my lifelong companion. Behold, I have come to you. I've appeared in glory. Despite the evil phrase I've spoken and the evil impurity I've committed, no one has blamed me." What inspires these words is that the lifespan granted by the divine and by the Ka represents human destiny. Despite harboring evil thoughts, damaging others' reputations, and accumulating wicked deeds during their lifetime, the deceased who prays these words harbors the hope of uniting with the Ka in the afterlife. If granted, the deceased will regain their Ka's vitality, life force, to spend in the afterlife despite the unyielding verdict of the judgment of the dead. Neheb-Kau, the god who distributes the Ka forces of individuals, depicts the Ka as a double-headed serpent, because it always remains attached to the earth above. The serpent shares a close connection with the earth's spirit, and its doubling signifies the start of a creative phase in life. Only when the primeval oneness splits into the opposites of the two, creating duality, does creation become real. That is, only when the primeval God confronts his creation. This last point brings us back to the sacred eye of Osiris, Sokar motif in the Amduat's fourth nocturnal hour. Given these concepts about the Ka and its bestowal upon the blessed dead by the snake god Neheb-Kau, the central theme of this hour appears to be the rebirth of consciousness, which has long since emerged from the dark earth and the prima materia, prime matter. Accordingly, the text accompanying a group of serpents in this hour assures us that they do not go to any other place at any time. These snakes' task is to remain in place. We can also define Ka as a spirit of continuity. Unlike the bird-like Bay soul, the serpent is inseparably connected to the earth and serves the Ka soul, thereby contributing to the tangible renewal of life in the afterlife. The message of this hour is to remain, to endure, and to preserve continuity, to keep available all these precious gifts presented by the Ka. Maintaining a connection with the soul can help one endure even the most challenging circumstances. Ancient Egypt paired the longing for the celestial heights of the Ba soul with a longing for the Ka soul, allowing the latter to experience life in the tangible material world. Life could undergo complete renewal only through the harmonious union of both psychic movements. Only through the inner eye of Osiris Sokar can we recognize the psychically and spiritually effective forces of the earth and matter connected to the soul. From time to time, therefore, our soul needs the stillness and simplicity of the desert, the solitude of the mountains, or the calming peace of nature. Periodically, the inner eye must recover from the colorful variety of our daily lives to become again aware of all beings' inner spirits. Life's intensity has never been stronger than in the barrenness of a desert landscape or the mountains. In the desert, a single blade of grass, a small flower amidst the bare rocks, or the unexpected visit of a small desert mouse brings the soul to life. When the electric lights of cities and villages do not block the night sky's brilliance, the soul can resonate, fostering a deep love for the cosmos and all beings. At this joyful moment, the freely moving, bird-shaped soul, always longing for the infinity of heaven, can find itself in connection with the permanence of earth and matter. They both blend into a unity that radiates a deep peace. O steadfast earth, true through the night, you waited for my greeting, proclaims Faust after his incubation sleep, finally redeeming him from his prior demonic-driven restlessness. 12. The inner eye may regain its ability to see when it is near danger, death, and stagnation, where the outer world is at its lowest. In the desert land of Sokar, teeming with countless snakes, only the snake consciousness can help the journey proceed. Therefore, the sun bark transforms into a double-headed serpent. The boat as a vessel is like a maternal womb, a feminine symbol. It protects its passengers from drowning in the depths of the waters, that is, in the depths of the unconscious. To ensure safe passage through this land of snakes, the vessel must assume a serpent's form. But what does this snake consciousness mean? As we've observed, snake dreams indicate a profound connection with the soul. It is hardly possible to bring such psychic content to consciousness by force of will, for this content is more like a numinous event, that breaks into someone's life as a matter of fate and is thus completely unexpected. Commenting on one of Peter Birkhäuser's paintings, Marie-Louise von Franz says, "It is an incomprehensible, threatening, and annihilating spirit that also harbors a secret meaning. Its grasp renders man helpless, overthrowing all his values. As a cold-blooded animal, the serpent is too far removed from the warmth of human blood to become a human partner. Nevertheless, there seems to be a mysterious bond between the two, so that when a snake appears in a dream, it can indicate a decisive turning point in someone's life. This may be a painful destiny for a person, but quite often, this pain is only the hidden germ of new life. At such points, the snake's poison becomes a remedy, and the serpent becomes a companion to Asclepius, the god of healing, who also assists women in labor. The serpent will return to this healing aspect. In spell 87 of the Book of the Dead, the deceased wishes to become a son of the earth, or a snake. In this form, the deceased hopes to share in the snake God's regenerative force. I am the son of the earth. I am the snake that is within the earth's limits. That is, not in the abysmal realm of primeval darkness. Our Ouroboros and solar child. I go to sleep and am reborn, renewed and rejuvenated daily. The serpent-shaped sunbark indicates that all the deities and blessed dead accompanying the sun god obey nature's fateful law. They submit to the cycles of nature, honoring the world spirit that the snake has incorporated. In the depths of the collective unconscious, a process forces those touched to subordinate their own will and knowledge to an inner truth and law that surpasses ego consciousness. It is the law of the night, earth, and snake, and whoever obeys it possesses a profound mystery. The Egyptians created an ingenious image for the regenerative aspect of the snake, the image of the Ouroboros serpent, whose body protectively circles the new day's solar child. Some illustrations, like the one in the Book of the Caverns mentioned above, depict the Ouroboros protecting Osiris, leaving it unclear whether the snake symbolizes Apophis or another god. Not wishing to consider anything entirely good or evil, the Egyptian sages easily embraced all kinds of complementary categories. They were too realistic not to see that an Ouroboros protection can grow out of evil, a protection that brings forth new birth. As a result, even Apophis could play the role of the Ouroboros, which protects Osiris from his enemies. The fifth hour of the night continues, in far greater depth, the theme of the fourth hour. The water is still shallow. The sun bark continues its journey, though with difficulty. In the lower register, the two groups of deities, 7 males and 7 females, must tether Re's boat above the cavern of Sokar. As we shall see, the goddesses' precedence over their male counterparts, particularly in the 12th hour, reflects the creation of these images in a culture that, despite its male dominance, highly valued the feminine element. From a psychological point of view, this image of the towing duties is quite meaningful. A man's anima is what instinctively anticipates the future. Both men and women have opposite-sex components, not only in their bodies but also in their minds. Jung called them animus in a woman and anima in a man. Therefore, it is surprising that the feminine side navigates through this challenging phase of Re's journey. To maintain the balance, however, male deities must also participate in this movement process, for a man deeply moved by his soul will need a strong ego consciousness not to fall under the spell of his anima. Suppose he allows his anima to control him. In that case, he may lose his mental clarity and, in his enthusiasm, mistakenly believe that even the most ridiculous things can rejuvenate his life, causing his genuine emotions to deteriorate into mere sentimentality. If this were to happen, the result would be a rather childish and egocentric behavior that could, in fact, ruin a man's life. Psychologically, we can understand the towing deities as archetypal. Temporary powers assist sun god in his mental journey. Under the surface of all historical and political events and beyond the personal experience of the individual, there are inner psychic factors at work, the contents of the collective unconscious. They are of an archetypal nature and in some way connected with the great soul, that is, with the central archetypal core, the self. From this core, the self arises with every real growth of consciousness and all renewal. This something, says Marie-Louise von Franz, which by its nature at all times transcends and encompasses our consciousness, is scarcely directly knowable for us, but it definitely manifests itself repeatedly in the unconscious psyche in the form of symbols. 3. All the assisting deities who support Re's journey embody these symbols in the religious language of the Amduat. The rope of the towing deities symbolizes an intimate connection with the psyche's innermost depths and the collective unconscious's hidden archetypal stream, i.e., the renewing spirit, or zeitgeist. Interpsychically, we can understand the female and male deities' common task and connection to the Great Soul as an image of totality, or, concretely, as a symbol of interpersonal relatedness. Sharing knowledge about how powerful unconscious images can be, and agreeing that the ego depends on archetypal powers, creates a psychic connection beyond the subjective realm. This is because the people involved stay connected with the Great Soul, a deep creative process rooted in the self and not the ego. This orientation toward connectedness with the self reflects the previously mentioned eternal connection through fate. Interpersonal relatedness arises when two people share one transcendent center, the sun god. Thus, in the image of the towing goddesses and gods, we can recognize nothing less than an image of the creative dynamic of love, in which the two lovers do not live exclusively for themselves and for each other, but rather are involved in a psychic process that extends far beyond the individual. Such love stems from a deep commitment to a third that transcends the individual's life. Isis's head dominates the fifth hour. According to traditional belief, Isis shielded the helpless child from Seth's persecution in the marshes of the Nile Delta, using her deep love to protect, nurture, and care for him. As Osiris's faithful companion, she preserves and renews all injured lives. Thus, more than any other deity, she heals body and soul. Indeed, as Isis Hathor, she confers legitimate royal power on the pharaoh with her abundance of milk. She nourishes the hungry child and turns him into a man and king. Similarly, as she did with the Horus child, Isis fully intervenes at this dangerous turning point in Re's journey to heal both the Horus child and the cavern of Sokar, contributing to the healing of wounded life and the renewal of life in general. Just as the sky goddess Nut, bending over the earth and touching the western and eastern horizons with her hands and feet, protects the course of the sun god in the daytime, here Isis seems to shelter the subterranean nocturnal course of Re. The Khepri beetle assists Isis in this task by grasping the towing deity's rope with its forefeet. The Khepri beetle mysteriously connects with these deities, and, through them, with the sun god. On the riverbanks of the Netherworld, mysterious things happen. In the upper register, we see Netherworld deities and numinous powers who emphasize the continuity of creation. Instead of a single creation, the world re-emerges daily, even hourly. The 9 NTR flagpoles at the beginning of the register symbolize this creation and recreation. The flagpoles symbolize the Ennead of Heliopolis, a traditional representation of the cosmos that emanates from the primordial god Atum. The number 9, the plural of the plural, symbolizes an indeterminate multiplicity of divine powers, and thus the incalculable abundance of creation. However, this text does not mention Atum, the traditional representative of the world's creative spirit. Khepri, the juvenile form of the sun god, takes his place, the first flagpole on the left, as the accompanying scriptures tell us. And instead of Seth, who usually occupies the last position, we encounter Horus, the son of Osiris. These two replacements shift the emphasis from the concept of origin, once in the beginning, to the ongoing renewal and regeneration of the cosmos. Even more than in the Heliopolitan concept, the emphasis is on the continual creation, continuous creation, or self-emanation in time. The focus is not on Atum, the undifferentiated one, nor the ambiguous Seth, who is always located at the margin of creation, but on light and the transforming power of those deities who embody the new zeitgeist. Whoever follows the subterranean stream while remaining focused on this zeitgeist does not look back to the origin, but ahead into a not yet created, still to be shaped future. The motif of the Ennead of Heliopolis seems to remind us of the mystery of creation, of that miraculous first occasion, but more importantly, that it is crucial to open our eyes to the recurring dynamic of the new creation in the present. The theme of this nocturnal hour is not that which remains eternally unchanged and destroys every dynamic of love, but rather the mysterious, continuous self-emanation of a new consciousness in the cavern of the earth god Sokar. The darkness of the land of Sokar conceals the image of this mystery. We shall return to this image below. This teleological, future-oriented approach to the inner psychic flow of energy is tremendously important in dealing with dreams. The main concern is what the unconscious or the self intends for development to occur. Though we can never know in which direction someone's development should go, that person's dreams know it. One major difficulty in therapeutic work is that many people are extremely conservative about psychic renewal. They secretly believe what has always been will be because they don't believe in decisive change. It is difficult to say whether fear of transformation in themselves or lack of self-confidence causes them to shrink from the prospect of renewal. Regardless, such a conservative mindset is a malignant shadow that will ultimately obstruct our creative energies. Of course, we must in no way impatiently attempt to force a transformation. It is crucial to nurture the dormant solar child, Horus, in the unconscious, also referred to by the alchemists as the little boy and girl, the noble empress, the winged youth, or any other name, until it is ready for birth. Thus, conscious awareness protects it, almost like a prayer, brooding, or incubation, ensuring the child's safe growth. The middle of the first register strikingly illustrates this incubation. The sandhill depicts Osiris's burial mound or coffin. The hieroglyph for night on top is a clear allusion to this place's darkness. Nigredo, depression, fear, and death are present in this fifth hour of the night. Because of this, the two birds are not absent. They represent Isis and Nephthys, the two sisters of Osiris, whose mournful wailing for their dead brother was believed, from the earliest periods of Egyptian history, to awaken him to new life. Isis and Nephthys arrive, one of whom is from the west.
Choice Hotels get you more of what you value. Comfort Inn, it's calling your name. Save on the stay. Oh, and free waffles are yours to claim. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
Honey, what are you listening to?
Mom!
Your teen might not share everything with you, but teens share everything with each other. And certain everyday behaviors, like sharing food, drinks, or kisses, could mean sharing bacteria that can cause meningococcal disease, known as meningitis. Although meningitis is uncommon, about 1 in 10 who develop it will die. Ask your teen's doctor about missing meningitis vaccinations. Learn more at meningitis.com. Vaccination may not protect all recipients. Sponsored by GSK.
One was from the east, one had a screecher outfit, and one had a kite outfit. They've found Osiris. Seth, his brother, had suppressed him in Nedit, the location of Osiris's death. They keep you from rotting by calling you Anubis. They prevent your putrefaction from leaking to the ground. O Osiris, live, live, and raise yourself. Isis is accompanied by Nephthys, her dark shadow sister. Indeed, the latter cannot achieve her femininity as a spouse and a mother, as did her radiant sister Isis, who has already united herself with Osiris in the maternal womb. Nevertheless, it is precisely as a shadow sister that she plays a decisive role. She symbolizes an ultimately anonymous feminine power that is all the more effective because of her anonymity. The Egyptians' habit of thinking in complementary structures was so strong that they could not exclude Isis's dark sister from their world. Eric Hornung has offered a beautiful commentary on this phenomenon. Whereas the two men, Horus and Seth, battle for dominance and authority, the two women harmoniously complement each other. Nephthys is far more than just a doublet and shadow of her sister, nor is she a mere abstraction of her. Rather, she is full of worldly wisdom. She thus represents the Egyptian striving for a harmonious and well-balanced totality. Nephthys, a goddess sister to all other deities, embodies beneficence and selfless care for others in a divine form. Life renewed in the darkness of the tomb, with the assistance of both sisters, assumes visible form in the scarab figure that seems to be emerging from the sand hill. Later in the 7th hour, we will discuss the motif of the funerary lament by Isis and Nephthys, which significantly contributes to this new birth. The tomb, coffin, or chest, named Anubis of the chest, by the god in front of it, provides shelter to the mysterious regeneration process, another important aspect of this scene. This great god, also known as the sun god, addresses the two mourning birds, saying, "May you guard your chest. May your voice be loud and your throats truthful. May the image you protect remain secret. May you spread your wings and fulfill your responsibilities, and I pass by you peacefully." We have already discussed the Netherworld's protection of the Amduat's role as the treatise of the hidden region. Here we differentiate this idea of protection by emphasizing that the image of God resting in his tomb must remain concealed, allowing the Creator God himself to pass by in peace. C.G. Jung has repeatedly noted that we can never truly define an archetype because it transcends all forms of consciousness. Thus, we cannot recognize unconscious contents except in their projected form, never directly. The image guarded by the wailing women and hidden in the burial mound or chest corresponds psychologically to the archetype, i.e., to an unfathomable factor of psychic renewal, Kipri, that is no longer accessible or perceptible to the human mind. In this case, only a symbol, the scarab, can express it. As such, we must preserve the secret. We may never reveal it. Only under such conditions will the renewal of consciousness and life take place. Then the Amduat says the sun god may pass by in peace. Only the wailing women are privy to the secret. Our sense of function, effects, and emotions primarily allows us to approach the unknown and gain a glimpse of the mystery. The mystery belongs to a true relatedness to the inner world, whose autonomy we cannot touch. Rather, we must allow it a life of its own, whose liveliness belongs to the images and figures of our soul. This, in fact, entails the diminution of an eternal truth whenever something truly new breaks into mundane reality through a creative act. Thus, many creation myths depict the creator withdrawing to a remote, inaccessible place after completing his work to carefully conceal the mystery of the renewal of creation. People's behavior when they fall in love provides a practical example of this phenomenon. Their behavior is often quite inappropriate, as they talk about it to everyone, instead of keeping their secret to themselves, and thus protecting it. Generally, well-meaning advice or warnings attack the tender flower that is just beginning to grow, causing it to quickly wither. As a rule, such advice is too superficial and general, and does not embrace the uniqueness of newly sprouting love. As a result, it is far better to carefully protect the sacred embryo, as the Chinese book The Secret of the Golden Flower calls it. If we must conceal the soul of the great God, how much more crucial is it to safeguard every new psychic content, the inner child that yearns to reside within us? When discussing a new order of creation, we must also mention all those threatening and disintegrating forces bent on destroying it. Their annihilation is the task of the 8 deities in the last scene of the upper register. They are those who stand punishing the damned in the netherworld. The name of the goddess facing them makes it clear how she treats the enemies. The demolishing one who cuts the damned to pieces. The accompanying text is no less illuminating. She lives from the blood of the damned and from what these gods provide her. He who knows her passes by in peace. It can scarcely be more clearly stated how tremendously important it is to have knowledge of the existence of evil powers. Optimism or idealism would certainly be of no help, for only he who knows evil will pass safely and avoid the fate of destruction. The land of Sokar is in the lower register, extending slightly upward into the middle, with the cavern in its center. The falcon-headed god of earth dominates the scene. He stands on a winged snake with 1 human head and 3 serpent heads. As the texts say, this serpent is the great god, obviously a theriomorphic form of the sun god, who spreads his wings with multicolored plumes. The wings are a primordial image of the divine child's heavenly protection, threatened by satanic darkness. The great god, with his multicolored plumes, guards the secret flesh, the corpse of the sun god. We shall return later to the meaning of the corpse, which is, as we shall see, in the center of the next nocturnal hour. The secret flesh represents a subterranean form of the sun god, or more precisely, Osiris Sokar as the corpse of the sun, which is the starting point of the actual renewal. Tiny points indicate the sand that surrounds Sokar and the serpent god. This oval incorporates the entirety of the netherworld, where the corpse of the deceased king rests. For this reason, the burial chamber of Thutmose III is oval in shape. Aka, in his double sphinx form, represents the netherworld. 7. His task is to guard the secret flesh, i.e. the sun god's corpse. Aka is a very old earth god. He is a double sphinx with 2 human heads who guard the entrance and exit gates of the outer world. He whose throat swallows everything that enters the western gate, only to give it over again to new life in the east, becomes a symbol of potency and regeneration in general, because it is through him that all the life force and vitality of the gods, and of humans as well, regenerates. Moreover, there is a belief that Aka's body conceals the secret corpse of every deceased person. This god watches over regeneration more than anyone else since he guards the secret flesh. Both ideas embrace the notion that the renewal of consciousness and the potency of life, the Ka soul, originate in Aka, who guards this mystery in the most profound darkness of the earth. There is a profound psychological truth to this idea that a real and enduring renewal of life will occur only when we are courageous enough to confront the darkness of the unconscious as consciously as possible. Of course, we can consciously change some things in our lives through willpower. The unconscious creative energy is the only source of true regeneration. Real healing will only happen if archetypal images move us. The particularly rich vignette of Spell 17 of the Book of the Dead features the double lion, as attested on papyri and the innermost of Tutankhamun's nested shrines. Ani's spell on the papyrus refers to the lions as yesterday and tomorrow. Here they symbolize the continuity of time. In the depths of the netherworld, yesterday and tomorrow blend into each other, guaranteeing this continuity. This symbol can also have a profound social significance. To feel solidarity with others requires what Jan Assmann has called a social memory, one that reaches back to the past and embraces the present and the future. 8. Only those blessed with the netherworld regeneration mystery can benefit from this union. The double nature of Aka symbolizes one of psychology's most fundamental laws, enantiodromia. Every energetic process necessitates the existence of a polarity, duality, or conflict. Heraclitus introduced enantiodromia, the law that everything will return to its opposite. The Greek philosopher expresses what the Egyptian symbol illustrates in the image of the double sphinx. The way to and fro, literally up and down, is one and the same. 9. He describes the serpent's path as meandering between opposites, a characteristic of any psychic development. From an energetic standpoint, it may also be what Jung called the law of the self-regulating function of opposites. We cannot deny the danger of this law, as anyone who succumbs to a particularly rigid one-sidedness eventually succumbs to the opposite, which could potentially be fatal. Whoever wishes to escape this vicious circle must learn to live consciously with the law of enantiodromia. Because nature does not tolerate one-sidedness, every extreme provokes the opposite. The more holy we think and live, and the more aware we are of the laws of day and night, taking into consideration the symbol of Aka, the double sphinx that unites the opposites, the more likely we are to partake of the regeneration emanating from the innermost center. The only person who escapes the grim law of enantiodromia is the one who can separate himself from the unconscious. Repressing it only makes it attack him from behind, by presenting it as something else. The other side, also known as the non-ego, or that which I am not, is the realm of the objective psychic, a pre-conscious totality that always contains the individual. However, the ego can never rule because it significantly exceeds the limited realm of consciousness. As the Egyptians already knew, the mystery of resurrection and its social implications corresponds psychologically to the collective and objective character of the unconscious. The more we are familiar with the material of the collective unconscious, the less we are involved in merely personal psychology. As soon as we enter the realm of the archetypal images, we find ourselves in contact with the collective stratum of the world of the ancestors, at the bottom of which lies a unitary concept of being, double sphinx, double lion, out of which all the polarities of life arise. Beneath the cavern of Sokar, spreading over the whole lower register, is the lake of fire, indicated with waves. Its waters must not touch the bark. The Book of Gates, 3rd hour, 10th scene, affirms that this lake provides nourishment and grain to the resurrected dead, while its blaze consumes the damned. The Book of Revelation echoes this Egyptian concept, depicting death and Hades hurling into a lake of fire. The Book of Revelation refers to this as the second death, the lake of fire, and throws anyone whose name does not appear in the Book of Life into it. Revelation 20:14-15, see also 1920, which refers to it as the lake of fire that burns with brimstone. Some early Christian Gnostic circles transferred the same idea to the Red Sea. This sea, they say, is a water of death for those that are unconscious, but for those that are conscious, it is a baptismal water of rebirth and transcendence. 12. In this Gnostic milieu, those who lack gnosis, knowledge, or insight into man's greater cosmic destiny are considered unconscious. The Gnostics even considered the great unconsciousness, agnosia or agnosia, the worst primordial evil of human existence. From a psychological perspective, we can view the fire as a symbol of the highly psychic energy contained in this place, thus explaining why the lake of fire belongs to the mystery of the cavern of Sokar. Examine your fiery temper, burning desire for love, excitable temperament, and heightening tension, your desires, wishes, emotions, and effects in the lake of fire. Whoever knows how to handle these energies will not die a second death, but will participate in the resurrection of the sun god at the end of the 12th hour, and thus in the renewal of spiritual life. But what does it mean to handle our emotions properly? Be aware of them, make them conscious, and understand them correctly. During an analytical session, a sudden surge of emotional tension envelops the room beyond the conscious course of the conversation. Such an event may cause strong and mutual feelings in both the analyst and the therapist. Sexual or other fantasies may be involved. This is referred to as transference and countertransference in the language of unlovely psychology. Not suppressing fantasies and feelings is crucial. During such moments, an absolute central psychic content, which arises from the deep stratum of the unconscious but cannot cross the threshold of consciousness, touches something very deep in the psyche of the analyst. Thus, the lack of an appropriate vessel to receive the energy stops it, preventing the understanding and assimilation of the new content into consciousness. Whenever this happens, the blocked energy flows into the nearest available vessel, which is often a sexual fantasy. The intensity of the emotional reaction and its accompanying fantasy point to a similarly powerful reality. The inner psychic image constellated in the unconscious psychic field between the analyst and the analyst. Misunderstanding such a fantasy in a literal sense would result in catastrophe, as it would most likely destroy the eternal archetypal aspect that underlies it. However, not recognizing such a fantasy would also be a catastrophe, as this would completely dismiss the healing potential of the archetypal image. The vessel of the cave of Sokar likewise contains the fiery alchemical substance, which the alchemists often call the corpse, ensuring its transformation rather than dissolution. We have already mentioned the winged serpent god, the sealed oval cavern of the netherworld, and Acre. The two serpents in front of the forelegs of the double sphinx, as well as the four heads with torches atop them at the beginning of the lower register, are all guardians of the enormous mystery. With their flames, the torches ward off the enemies who endanger the mysterious process of renewal in the interior of the cavern. The cave itself, which is in fact well sealed on each side by a solid gate, has the same protective function. A living god, in the form of a serpent rearing upright on its tail, serves as a gatekeeper. It is unclear whether the head of Isis in the middle of this hour has the same protective meaning. Her presence could also signify the extraordinarily high tension in this hour's energy. Thus, the secret path of this land is, as the text says, filled with flames of fire from the mouth of Isis. Sun God and his entourage approach a critical turning point in the 5th hour, where life will undergo complete renewal or annihilation. From a psychological point of view, this is a very delicate moment, in which either we courageously give up an old attitude of life to reach a higher level of consciousness, or we fail and remain stuck in, or even regress to, old patterns and structures. To pass this fatal moment successfully, we need the protection of the multicolored winged serpent god. a numinous and archetypal symbol. The following dream analysis presents a modern image of an archaic deity. I heard of a bat sitting in a subterranean cave, its wings spanning 260 meters in breadth and beating rhythmically. This image deeply moved me. Half awake, I got the idea of the Earth's heart or the world's soul, thus maintaining life with its pulsation. The bat's wings' rhythmic throb may hold a creative significance. The movement's rhythm banishes the chaotic power of darkness. In Africa, I have frequently observed artisans who, through hammering, create the most fascinating rhythmic music while working as carvers or quarrymen. Thus, they could continue their work with playful ease for many hours, despite the burning African sun. In this dream, it is not a multicolored winged serpent god, but a pitch-black bat that guards the mystery in the depths of the earth. This image compensates for our contemporary repression of all that is dark, evil, and sinister. We must deal with this dark earth spirit. Not without reason did the alchemists emphasize the blackness of the prima materia, and not without reason did they affirm that the play of the colors of the cauda pavonia, the peacock's tail, rises from the nigredo, that is, from blackness and depression. Under the more or less well-organized modern world, there lurks a dangerous and most aggressive potential, and it is as if the pulsating strokes of the bat's wings were trying to appease the dark demon of the depths, and thus avert an impending eruption of chaos. For centuries, particularly since Augustine, there has been an overemphasis on the light side of the Christian God of love, and this calls for a compensatory reaction, the recognition of God's dark side. It was this dark, somewhat material God to whom the alchemists devoted all their work and passion in their secret laboratories, apart from official theology, and often in fear of the Inquisition. There are traces of God's dark side in the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament, which embrace God's wrath and his fearful side. But during the history of the Church, there was a progressive tendency to burden humankind alone with all the dark and evil aspects of creation. Therefore, acknowledging God's dark side is of the utmost importance. Lord Gotthilf Eisler expressed this in the following words: "We live now in a world in which evil increasingly and overwhelmingly becomes a terrible reality. We feel justified in our fear. Perhaps the horrors we witness on television misguide our confidence, and the information we consume keeps us awake at night. The world has become small, and the apocalypse is a daily possibility. The existence of the Almighty God becomes uncertain. Certainly life has its wonderful sides. We may see the good, beautiful, and wonderful side of this world and our lives, but we must also recognize the other side, the dreadful and evil. A God who really loved his creatures and had the power to avoid it would not allow such suffering, not war nor persecution, not hunger nor drought, not cancer nor the death of young drug-addicted people. Such a God is neither a God of love nor only love. We must acknowledge the face of God. The multicolored winged serpent God symbol clearly demonstrates the ambivalence of the divine spirit in both his human and serpent-headed forms. This symbol beautifully preserves the polarity of all creation. Whatever exists has two sides, including God himself. Though we cannot reveal the mystery of regeneration or, as the Egyptians would have said, the Horus child, this knowledge is crucial. The author of the Amduat stressed the value of consciousness and knowledge. The introduction to the fifth hour, for instance, reads as follows: "The secret paths of the West, gates that grant entry into the hidden. The unapproachable land of Sokar represents flesh and body as the first manifestation. The netherworld is home to the Bay Souls. This image of Horus himself is unknown, unseen, and imperceptible. We painted this to resemble the image. The hidden chamber is located on the southern side of the netherworld secrecy. He knows it. His soul is content. He is satisfied with Sokar's offerings." With this allusion to the secret connection between the corpse of the sun god and the Horus child, we have already entered the most profound depths of the netherworld, where the corpse of the sun god lies buried. The sun god and the rebirth of light. Reunion of the opposites. In the middle register, we encounter the central theme of this hour, and indeed of this entire book of the Netherworld. At the deepest point in the realm of the dead, the point where we reach the very edge of the primeval waters of Nun and their primordial darkness, and where the domain of Apophis threatens creation with chaos and non-being, there lies a huge, Ouroboros, multi-headed serpent with many faces, encircling the corpse of the sun god in his form of Khepri. This image alludes in several ways to the mystery of the renewal of all life in the depths of the night. This iconography, which often depicts the sun god's body as hyphalic, or with one hand pointing to its mouth as a sign of its living power, refers to the hieroglyphic sign for child. On its head, we see a Khepri beetle, another common icon for regeneration. We call the recumbent body the corpse of Khepri as his own flesh, or the corpse of Osiris. This nighttime hour is about the sun god's body and corpse, or Re and Osiris, as the Amduat puts it. This combination creates two mysteries: the awakening of the dead in the afterlife and the renewal of light in the netherworld. At midnight, a mysterious regeneration process renews all vital impulses and the cosmos. Only when Re's corpse unites with this body can the soul awaken to new life, serving as the seedbed of renewal. The sun god repeatedly addresses the corpse, "O corpse from which I rise," in a later book of the Netherworld, the Book of the Earth, which equates it with the corpse of Nun, the primeval waters. All the blessed dead participate in the mysterious transformation of the sun god. He speaks to them in the lower register of this hour's Amduat. "May the light shine on your faces, hearts, and darkness. Please dispose of your own water and be content with your offerings. I am marching forth for your souls, which pass behind me. My body is with me, and I may light on my corpse." This is what the union promises to all who participate: life and peace, peace for the soul. I don't hesitate to call it the Mysterium Conjunction, the mysterious union of the opposites, namely, the same enormous mystery for which the alchemists searched over the centuries in their attempts to produce their philosophical gold. But what did the Egyptians consider when they imagined the sun god as a body approaching his corpse? Let us first consider the upper register. We see three chests directly above the Ouroboros serpent encircling the corpse of the sun god. They represent the threefold burial of the sun god. One, we can recognize the hind part of a lion, one of the scarab's wings, and a human head. The tomb names reference the myth, linking this dismemberment to Osiris. The accompanying text, however, clarifies that the grueling battle between the two antagonists has ended. Now, peace reigns. The darkness on earth is illuminated. The flesh roars joyfully. Once he has united his members, the head speaks. These are the mysterious images of the netherworld. Painful though it might be, this dismemberment is inevitable, for it necessarily precedes the union and regeneration. Complete dissolution precedes complete renewal. This idea is omnipresent in alchemy. Dissolution, dismemberment, fragmentation, incineration, and so forth are recurrent stages of the alchemical process. To enter into God's kingdom, says Jung in his Mysterium Conjunction, the king must transform himself into the prima materia in his mother's body and return to the dark initial state, which the alchemist calls the chaos. In this massa confusa, the elements conflict and repel each other, dissolving all connections. Dissolution is the prerequisite for redemption. To attain transformation, the celebrant of the mystery cults had to suffer a figurative death. The alchemists compared men's suffering to Christ's. After a painful descent into the lowest and deepest parts below the earth, they both lead to redemption. Referring to the suffering of Christ on the cross, the already cited text from the Aquarium Sapientium continues. Indeed, when he finally experienced his most sacred passion, the hour of death, he completely lost his strength and spirit. The alchemists compared men's suffering to Christ's, after a painful descent into the lowest and deepest parts below the earth. They both lead to redemption. Referring to the suffering of Christ on the cross, the already cited text from the Aquarium Sapientium continues. Indeed, when he finally experienced his most sacred passion and the hour of death, he completely lost his strength and spirit. He went down to the lowest and deepest parts of the earth. Acts 1, Ephesians 1, I Peter 3. Even there, the power of the eternal Godhead preserved, refreshed, and raised him up again, quickened, and glorified him. Romans 14. Finally, with its body dead in its sepulchre, his spirit obtained a perfect and indissoluble union through his most joyful resurrection and victorious ascension into heaven. We shall return to this point at the end of the chapter. Thus, the religious ideas of Egypt, particularly those of the New Kingdom, with their emphasis on the netherworld, strongly influenced Christianity and alchemy. Though the alchemical text cited does not speak about the union of the soul, anima, and the corpse, it mentions the union of the corpse with the spirit, pneuma, spirits. According to Christian, Egyptian, and later alchemical concepts, descent into the deepest depths precedes ascent to heaven. There is, however, a decisive difference between the Egyptian and the Christian concepts. The Amduat illustrates Re's important cognitive process during his nocturnal journey with rich and vivid imagery and symbolism, which the accompanying texts emphasize throughout. Christ, however, suffers his destiny in a much more passive way. In this sense, the latter far more resembles Osiris, the god of death, who is, as we shall see, characterized in particular by his passivity, quite effective though it might be. The difference between the more active encounter with darkness, as we see it in Amduat and alchemy, on the one hand, and the more Osirian passivity of Christ, on the other hand, often created an insurmountable tension between the official, orthodox doctrine of the Church and the world of the alchemists and other free spirits. A tension that threatened to deliver the latter into the hands of the Inquisition. The focus on the regenerative power of the dark realm of the dead, the idea of the new light hidden in the densest night, and the deepest blackness of matter, the corpse, all ran contrary to the emphasis on the glorious side of Christ's resurrection within church context and dogma. Quite similar, however, to the Christian and alchemical ideas of transformation, the motif of dismemberment in the Amduat points to a death that makes alive, for, as the text says, the flesh roars with joy. The midnight hour paradoxically conquers the darkness and the threat of death. We have healed the sun and broken the spell of death. To illustrate this, the baboon-headed god Thoth is enthroned in front of the sunbark in the mid-register of this hour. A goddess standing opposite him hides two pupils behind her back. In the darkness of this hour of the night, the sun god will heal the pupils of his eyes. Once more, the Egyptian author conceives the gleaming of the nocturnal sunlight in its newly awakened splendor as the mythological image of the healing of the injured solar eye. Even more precisely, the Book of Gates expresses this idea of the renewal of light in the depths of the night. Here, in the lower register of the 6th hour, mummies carry brightly shining garments, as we know them from Greek mystery cults. The change of clothes, the main theme of the Amduat's 8th hour, symbolizes an inner psychic transformation, a complete renewal of the old psychic attitude. The rebirth of light in the depths of the night, as illustrated by the white clothes, psychologically signifies an illuminating and broadening of consciousness, as well as a decisive new attitude toward life, one that will definitely manifest itself in the world at the moment of sunrise. Therefore, the awakening of consciousness in the dark abyss of the collective unconscious, initially manifesting as dim sparks of luminescence, initiates any decisive renewal of life or expansion of consciousness in an individual or a whole people. The goddess facing Thoth hides the pupils of her two eyes, symbolizing this awakening consciousness. In this respect, the Amduat anticipates the basic idea of the mystery cult. The recumbent lion in the upper register demonstrates that this consciousness renewal can sometimes prove extremely powerful. Above him are two Ujjat eyes, the divine eyes of Re. This lion, lions love the sunlight, is the great transformer of death into life, a royal animal and divine spirit whose presence announces that the royal life force has been regained. His name, Bull with roaring voice, emphasizes his ability to assert himself. The bull and the lion represent royalty. The 9 royal scepters facing the lion have the same meaning as the 16 standing mummies in the middle register. They include all the deceased pharaohs and blessed dead who have become Osiris, i.e., the totality of the ancestors.
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month, with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
United connects you to more of the world than any U.S. airline, and United for Business can get your company where you need to go. Whether you're growing a business or managing travel for thousands, they offer solutions to fit your needs. Track expenses, create reports, and manage traveler perks. Plus, employees earn Mileage Plus miles while your company saves on travel. Get started with no minimum spend or flight requirements. Visit business.united.com/podcast.
The soul of the sun god, and that of every one of the deceased accompanying him, desire to rest with these ancestors, for it is only in their presence that the mysterious renewal can occur. Along similar lines, we must conceive of the psychological meaning of the corpse of the sun god. We can understand the sun god as incorporating luminosity, a principle of consciousness in the collective unconscious. However, his corpse symbolizes the culmination of all past consciousness, representing the cultural achievements of the human race that have faded into oblivion or the unconscious realm over millions of years. The collective unconscious is not a chaotic muddle of all possible contents. Rather, we can observe in it the existence of a certain structure or a specific dynamic. On the one hand, the instinctive reactions, the so-called patterns of behavior, and on the other hand, the archetypes as primordial images, the inherited possibilities of human imagination, as it was from time immemorial. Return to the clearly structured scene of the 3 chests protecting the dismembered solar scarab. The dismemberment is a clear hint at the dissolution of the old conscious attitude. But, as the accompanying text makes clear, this image also shows that amid all decomposition and dissolution, there is a mysterious ordering principle. Illuminated is the darkness in the earth. The flesh roars with joy. Therefore, in a manner typical of the Egyptian concept of the cosmos, these 3 chests, or tombs, reflect the paradoxical truth of an intimate connection between decay and the creation of a new order. How can we explain the mysterious events at the edge of the ordered cosmos, where the sun god died in the night? In need of renewal, the psychic attitude, the soul, of the preceding day or historical era plunges into the realm of the collective unconscious, the realm of the ancestors and of bygone cultures, where it disintegrates, the motif of dismemberment, and then unites itself with archetypal contents that are attempting to rise to the surface. Whenever we succeed in consciously recognizing even a small part of those archetypal images that, like the sunrise in the morning, break into consciousness, this recognition will bring about a creative revival and broadening of consciousness, as well as a revival and renewal of a past religious orientation or worldview. Descent into the realm of the ancestors is an appropriate image for the fact that every spontaneous renewal of life stems from an encounter with what has existed since time immemorial. only an a priori pre-existing psychic arrangement of archetypal images, the uncountable deities of the Amduat, established through countless spiritual experiences of humankind, can result in a genuine act of creation, a true remedy proven 1,000,000 times, as the Amduat puts it. Whenever cultural development threatens to stagnate, there is a need for a reorientation rooted in the past to create the future. New life emerges from what was once alive and now decays. This law of nature is valid for the inorganic world as well as for the spirit world. If Christian dogma and ritual have devolved into empty formulas and mere formalities, then we are sure to encounter the religious conceptions of the so-called pagan world, for our living spirit has withdrawn into this stratum that flourished long ago. We will renew our spiritual and religious life by raising this sunken treasure and placing it into a new vessel. Whenever an archetype emerges, provided that it is partially understood, it always brings a certain influence or power with a numinous, fascinating, and healing effect. However, if we neglect to bring it into our awareness, we risk permanently losing a priceless legacy of our ancestors. Descent into the depths where a once living treasure lies hidden is the age-old theme of the Christian Gnostic hymn of the soul, or Pearl, which the persecuted and captured Apostle Thomas supposedly chanted amid his fellow prisoners. 5. The story enlightens us about a prince who receives a mission from his royal parents to find the pearl in a foreign land. It lies buried under the Egyptian sea, guarded by a fearsome dragon. The son sets off, but soon he forgets his mission and royal, divine origin, losing himself entirely in Egypt's lust for worldly pleasures. Only when an eagle brings him a letter from his homeland does he suddenly remember his noble ancestry and his original task. Get up and awaken from your sleep, and hearken unto the letter's words. Remember, you are a son of kings. Lo, you have come under the yoke of bondage. Do you recall the pearl that sent you to Egypt? Recall that gold adorns your garment. Your name is named in the book of life. Heeding the message, he breaks free of worldly bonds and dives into the depths of the Egyptian sea, where he soon finds the pearl. After taming the dragon that guards the treasure, he seizes the pearl and departs for his homeland in the east, Sunrise. Along the way, he recovers his shining gold garment, and soon after his return, he dedicates his most precious treasure to God on high. But where does the highest value, the pearl, lie hidden in our own day? According to Christian theology, the focus on the heavenly world of the Spirit, the divine word, logos, and intellect happens simultaneously. This leads to the revival of the divine spirit in nature, no matter if nature is Christian or pagan. Without valorizing and accepting this living spirit of nature and matter, this failure could easily lead us to catastrophe and destruction. Nicolaus von Flue was a saint who lived in Switzerland during the 15th century. While farming in the mountains, he and his wife Dorothea had 10 children, but as soon as his oldest son could take over and support the large family, Nicolaus left the farm to live as a hermit in a wild gorge near his family's house, supported by his family and the inhabitants of the village. This spirit of nature deeply permeated many of his visions. Some images were so shocking and heretical that they caused severe concern and even agitation in Brother Klaus, who was a faithful Christian. Thanks to this saint's consistent merit, he remained true to his visions despite their initial incompatibility with the Christian dogma of his day. As Marie-Louise von Franz has demonstrated in her interpretation of these visions, they clearly show traits of the Germanic god Wotan or Odin, and they forced Nicolaus to accept and integrate his pagan roots into his Christian image of God. These traits had mainly to do with a profound connection with cosmic nature and the principle of synchronicity. As we have already seen, the latter assumes that the collective unconscious includes some foreknowledge. Through such synchronicities, nature manifests itself meaningfully to the individual. Only in this way is a truly individual and personal encounter with the divine possible, enabling an integration of the psychic sphere into the world of nature. This deep appreciation of the individual and their immediate contact with the divine separates the visions of the Swiss saint from a great deal of traditional Christian belief. Even today, the deep love and reverence bestowed upon Brother Klaus demonstrate the fruitfulness of such an expansion of the divine image. The saint's life and work provide a particularly impressive example of the spontaneous devotion of the soul to the corpse, that is, to the heritage of our forebears and the whole assembly of our heathen ancestors. Every night, as the introduction to the sixth hour puts it, life and new consciousness emerge from the fathomless depths, in the abyss of the waterhole of those in the netherworld. The Egyptians had another accurate portrayal of this idea. In the last scene of the Book of Gates, it is the god Nun, the embodiment of the watery chaos, whose mighty arms lift the sunbark out of the primeval waters. In the bark, among other creative powers, we see Khepri, who, as we know, symbolizes new consciousness. Nut, the sky goddess, and personification of the vault of the sky, welcome the solar child, her maternal arms outstretched to receive him at the eastern horizon. For her part, she stands on the head of Osiris, whose backward-bent body encompasses the entirety of the netherworld. No era and no culture, however magnificent, can avoid the descent into the realm of the dead. The cycle closes with Osiris. The beginning is light, and the end is unified darkness, says the closing text of the short version of the Amduat, but we do not know where the beginning starts or where the end is. Ultimately, a single truth may remain beyond our comprehension. Komarios and Cleopatra, a Greek alchemical text dating to the 1st century of our own era and clearly influenced by Egyptian thought, speaks of the metals in the alchemist's vessel as corpses, lying bound and pressed in the gloom and darkness of the depths of Hades. But when the grave is opened, they come forth from Hades, like the child from the womb.
I'm Livy Dunn, All-American gymnast and Viore athlete. When you travel and train as much as I do, you find happiness where you are. On the mat or on the sand, movement and comfort are essential. That's why I live in Performance Joggers by Viore. Made from DreamNet fabric that's made of 89% recycled materials, effortlessly soft and made to move as much as I do. My happiness starts here, in the softest joggers on the planet. Get 20% off your first purchase at viore.com/Livy. That's VUORI.com/LIVVY. Exclusions apply. Not only will you receive 20% off your first purchase, but enjoy free shipping on U.S. orders over $75 and free returns. Go to viore.com/Livy and discover the full versatility of Viore clothing. Exclusions apply. Visit the website for full terms and conditions.
Spotify, it's Jay Shetty. Are you one of those media strategy people? Scrolling through spreadsheets, searching for an audience that pays twice as much attention to your ads than they do on social? Let me introduce you to Fans. And they're here with me on Spotify. Trust me, I know Fans. They don't skip, they stay for hours. They don't move on, they manifest. They're not a demographic group, they're fans.
Spotify advertising. You're among fans.
8. Such is the sacred art of alchemy, the paradoxical union of spirit and soul with the body, the awakening of corpses from their sleep. As the sages of the hymn of the soul call out to the royal sun, reminding him of his origin, so in this alchemical pastime, the soul calls out to the body, "Wake up from Hades, and stand up from the grave and awaken from the darkness. You have clothed yourself in spirituality and divinity after the call of resurrection has spoken to you, and the remedy, elixir, of life has reached you." Whether in the hymn of the soul, the Komarios text, or the Amduat, we always encounter the same motif of the body's confinement and suffering, which requires redemption. In the lower register of the 6th hour of the Amduat, we see various standing or half-seated deities who, as the accompanying text makes clear, owe their revival to the union of the sun god with his corpse, which has just occurred. Thus we address them, "You are the gods whose heads shine and whose corpses stand. The dead now rise from their languor, and the great God admonishes them. Stand up indeed, yield not, stretch out and be not weary. May your bodies emerge and may your shadows rest. Ensure your feet are stretched and your knees are straight. May you indeed rest in your flesh, unbound are your wrappings." The painful constriction of the mummy wrappings is now successfully overcome. Freedom from old wrappings and bonds is an archetypal motif. For instance, we read in another alchemical text of the Corpus Hermeticum, urging the soul to free itself from the flood of consciousness. First, you must rip into shreds the garment you are wearing, the cloth of unconsciousness, the solidification of wickedness, the fetters of corruption, the dark cloak, the living death, the visible corpse, the unburied tomb, and the inner thief. 10. It is scarcely imaginable that such thoughts could have existed without knowledge of texts expressing Egyptian religious concepts. The Corpus Hermeticum appears to have established a profound connection between the fundamental principles of alchemy and those found in the Egyptian books of the Netherworld, primarily transmitting the wisdom of ancient Egypt to us through alchemy. This wisdom is of unfathomable value for modern psychology and, I believe, indispensable for understanding C.G. Jung's concept of the collective unconscious in our time. The admonition not to be inattentive at the decisive moment of revival from the depths is of enormous psychological importance. Whenever new content emerges from the unconscious and proceeds in the direction of consciousness, we must devote our full awareness and attention to it, to bring it into consciousness. Otherwise, it will easily slip back into the unconscious realm of the dead. We dedicate the 7th hour of the night to this danger. The union of the body with the corpse, the conjunction of Re and Osiris, rarely ignites new light before the powers of darkness threaten to extinguish it in this, the 7th hour of the night. Apophis, no less an enemy, obstructs the sun's bark and those it conveys. This scene would have struck terror in the hearts of the ancient Egyptians, for a standstill in the sun's course would have threatened to end the order of the cosmos. An archetypal motif threatens ordered existence, just as newly awakened consciousness begins to radiate its first dim light, renewed, and this time final, darkness threatens it. This is an archetypal truth. A new creation attracts the evildoer. The massacre of innocents is a well-known example. When Christ's star heralded the coming of a new world order, King Herod sought to kill the newborn child. But an angel appeared to Joseph in a dream, and the Holy Family escaped safely to Egypt, Matthew 2. When a new era begins, death and chaos are close at hand. We must always bear in mind the threat that arises, especially at the outset, whenever there is a renewal of our consciousness and thus any change in our previously ordered regimen and attitudes. We may also state the matter the other way around. If we are sometimes filled with terror and beset by profound existential angst or afflicted with the torment of depression, such an experience can intimate that even now, beneath the threshold of consciousness, the germ of psychic content is struggling to emerge from the collective unconscious to cause a decisive change in our lives. There is thus no reason to be ashamed of such anxiety or depression. Quite the contrary. Someone who never knows such anxiety is most likely cut off from the deeper levels of their soul. It is only natural to fear the darker aspects of the self. Such fear has touched many mystics in their deepest souls. For a single example, we may cite the shoemaker Jacob Boehme. The profound depths of this world seized him with a painful melancholy as a young man. In The Four Complexions, written in 1621, he makes a precise psychological distinction between a melancholic depression based on pathological self-torment, which can, should, be overcome on the one hand, and on the other, the existential dread that arises from the terror of the soul in the face of the dark abyss. 1. It was not until his decisive vision, which filled him with terror and which he could describe only as a divine birth, that he experienced a gradual transformation of his initial fear of the vast depths of this world. Only then could he affirm that God alone is both the all and the profound depths, implying that the darkness had not vanished but merged into the divine image. We must distinguish existential angst from merely human fear. The latter, healable, stems from a weak and easily discouraged ego. However, the terror of absolute evil, personified by Apophis, penetrates the collective unconscious so profoundly that willpower and effort cannot overcome it. We must acknowledge that some wounds remain unhealed. As we shall see, in his encounter with Apophis, even the sun god will need the assistance of other divine beings. Only archetypal powers can help banish or transform this terror that makes even the great god tremble. In the upper register of the seventh nocturnal hour, we see Osiris enthroned in his function as judge of the dead. Here, the serpent Mayan encircles him protectively for the first time. There is a close connection between this scene and Apophis's threat to all creation in the middle register. In front of Osiris, 3 enemies kneel, decapitated and bound, and 3 others lie bound on their backs, while 2 punishing demons stand over them. The 3 bay birds to the right of the condemned beautifully illustrate the blessed dead. They protect the sun god in his form of Atum, whom we see to their immediate right, seated on the coils of a serpent. Osiris safely distinguishes between the damned and the blessed, or, as the accompanying text puts it, between those endowed with living bodies, on which the mysteries live, and the headless ones who have rebelled against the foremost of the netherworld, thus barring them from the grace of knowledge. O you, Osiris presides over the netherworld, Lord of life, ruler of the West. Life is yours, you exist, and you are alive. Bay being is yours, you are Bay soul, and you remain. For soul in the earth. May your followers elevate you, may your enemies crumble beneath your feet. You have power over those who acted against you. These scenes in the upper register have a theme of moral differentiation. Ethical awareness becomes crucial when the world is about to establish a new level of consciousness, whether in the life of an individual or a whole person. The reference is not to a collective morality that has gradually developed into a commonly accepted code over time. We must overcome this code, an integral part of the old order. On the contrary, Osiris's life-giving quality intimately connects with his ethical differentiation. It is a psychically and emotionally differentiated consciousness that requires a dialogue with one's inner voice, i.e., with the gods within, or the self. All the founders of new religions have, to one extent or another, ignored the traditional moral code, holding the divine inner voice or message of their visions to be more worthy of respect and attention than the demands of collective public institutions or authorities. Erich Neumann has dedicated a book to this topic, Depth Psychology and a New Ethics. According to Neumann too, the incursion of the dark into Western consciousness has destroyed the old value system, necessitating a new ethical orientation for our modern age. This new ethic can be described as an ethic of individuation, in that it follows not so much a collective moral code as an inner voice rooted in the self, that is, in one's own creative process, thus the term individuation. It would be a gross misunderstanding to see this new ethic as nothing more than an individual or personal affair. Rather, a principal characteristic of this ethic is a careful hearkening to the messages of the collective unconscious or the self. This orientation toward the objective psychic embeds the individual in a superordinate totality. Thus, healing a neurotic orientation toward life is also an ethical problem. Overcoming one's own unconsciousness necessarily requires a new ethical alignment. Individuals would not become better. Rather, they would deal with life's dark and light sides more consciously and nuancedly. Even Jesus, subjected to a threefold temptation by the devil in the wilderness, suffered an ethical ordeal. Just as Jesus' temptation stands at the beginning of his mission in this world, Matthew 4, Osiris's judgment of the dead begins the transformation of the sun god and his entourage, a transformation that will grow more visible from one nocturnal hour to the next, culminating in the sun god's rebirth in the 12th hour. We may say, therefore, that once inner psychic images and contents from the collective unconscious have broken through into consciousness, an ethical reorientation is the first sign of renewal and change. The Book of Gates, which is later in date than the Amduat, thus devotes an entire scene to the judgment of the dead by Osiris, which we find inserted between the 5th and 6th nocturnal hours. In the history of ideas in ancient Egypt, the individual's moral differentiation became more pronounced over time, with an emphatic increase in individual uniqueness appearing in the later New Kingdom, which we also call the Ramesside period. This period was characterized by the appearance of personal piety, and the fact that ordinary individuals could now address prayers and petitions to a god or goddess of their choice implies a major change in the concept of the divine. We now return to the Amduat, which already provides the basis for this development. In the middle register of the hour, in front of the sunbark but safely separated from it by a wall, the serpent demon Apophis lurks. Knives pierce the coils of his body while two deities, one at his neck and one at his tail, bind him for the slaughter. To the right we see 4 goddesses, knives in hand, whose names reveal the wrathful side of the feminine: she who binds together, she who cuts, she who punishes, and she who annihilates. The Egyptians were so convinced of the effectiveness of images that they would never have dared to depict this terrifying demon of the unbound depths. Analogously, tombs with an illustration of the judgment of the dead always show the scales weighing the ethical behavior of the deceased in perfect balance, for the lack of a harmonious equilibrium would have threatened the otherwise peaceful character of the scenes decorating the walls, and it could even have resulted in the condemnation of the deceased. Even the sun god could not gaze upon absolute evil despite the seriousness of its existence. Therefore, his encounter with absolute evil necessitates a transformation. The introductory text to this hour states, "The god assumes another form in this cavern." This form can refer only to the depiction of the serpent Mehen protectively encircling the sun god until the 12th hour of the night. It is no longer a chest, but a living serpent that protects God from any and all evil forces. It is as though the transformation that occurred at the deepest point of the netherworld entailed a dissolution of former rigid perceptions, compartmentalized thinking, collective morality, etc., making way for the living, instinctive spirit of the serpent and the earth. This serpent is a symbol of the regenerative energy of the sun god. We mentioned snake consciousness in our discussion of the 4th hour, where we saw the sunbark transformed into a serpent, which we interpreted as symbolizing newly gained perception or insight. However, in this instance, the Mehen serpent permanently accompanies the sun god, symbolizing a deeper integration of the creative spirit of nature within the serpent. Though a serpent as earth or world spirit accompanied the sun god temporarily in the 4th hour, Mehen becomes a constant living presence here. It differs whether we merely acknowledge, be it ever so slightly, the inner archetypal figures of the unconscious, or whether they are so real to us that they become indispensable companions in our lives, inner figures we cannot do without. This creative snake spirit typically awakens when we experience evil and destructive events, when we cannot dismiss the dark and often inferior thoughts that persistently plague us. Only one thing can save us at such times: to become active, even creative, by patiently and persistently doing some work. While we cannot completely conquer the destructive energy of Apophis, the threat of our own unconsciousness, in this way, we can at least ward it off and gradually overcome it. He who knows it upon earth, states the text immediately above Apophis, is one whose water, horrible of face, i.e. Apophis, cannot drink. That is, so to speak, one whose water of life or life energy will not cease but continue to flow. The underlying image is that of Apophis obstructing Re and his entourage's journey by gulping down the water on which the sun bark must go. In his attempt to do this, Apophis threatens the regeneration of all the dead and the continuity of the entire cosmos. His success would result in a deadly stagnation within the eternal creative process, a complete relapse into unconsciousness, or dryness, as the alchemists called it. The alchemists' divine water, the life-giving water of the netherworld, deprives us of the hidden subterranean stream of archetypal images that has sustained and nurtured our souls since time immemorial. Thus, the spirit of the protective serpent can indeed keep us safe from the dark principle of Apophis. And once again, those famous, oft-quoted lines from Hölderlin's Patmos prove true. The image of the sun god swallowing his eye, the sunlight to safely pass by Apophis, indicates, among other things, that we cannot gaze upon absolute evil directly. Before Apophis, even the sun god must close his eyes. All enlightenment must halt in the face of a darkness that defies perception and consciousness. Perhaps our silence in the face of all the horrors of this world, in wars and torture chambers, in the grief of mothers and fathers over their dead children, and so forth, is not always a sign of mere cowardice or helplessness, but rather the only appropriate reaction to the dark side of the Creator himself. Attempts at academic investigation and explanation of the Holocaust perhaps serve only to belittle this absolute horror that defies all understanding. There are two figures on the prow of the sunbark which, thanks to their magical power, are specially qualified to help ward off Apophis in the secrecy of the netherworld. One of them is Isis, Lady of the Bark, well known for her magical abilities. Eric Hornung has demonstrated that we recognize a form of Seth in the eldest magician, a god. Seth, as the myth relates, and every Egyptian was well aware of this myth, murdered his brother Osiris. He was thus an antagonist of the order in creation. Here, however, he stands in the sun barking to ward off Apophis, with whom he is otherwise associated. Seth, the first and most important of Re's defenders, represents blind desire, a dark, emotional, primal power and energy. Similia similibus curantur runs an old saying, like heals like. Thus, Apophis has chosen Seth, the rebel, the foreigner, the thunderer, and the murderer of Osiris, to defeat him, thereby averting ultimate chaos and cosmic catastrophe. In Book of the Dead spell 108, the serpent Apophis, called He Who Is in His Burning, has already gulped down the water of the Netherworld River, thus bringing the sun bark to a standstill and causing tremendous confusion among the crew of divine rowers. However, Seth is now actively patrolling the bark. Like the Christian St. George, he battles the demon serpent with his iron lance, compelling him to vomit up all he has swallowed. Confronting Apophis, Seth speaks his words of magic power. Please get back to the sharp knife that's in my hand. I stand before you, navigating to the right and looking far away. Please shield your face as I make my way across. Return to me, for I am the male. I am Hail, and I remain Hail. I am the greatest magician, the son of Nut, and I have power over you. What a wonderful passage! Bursting with masculine pride and self-confidence, its verses convince us that Seth is truly a faithful and indispensable defender of the sun god. Psychologically, Seth symbolizes an instinctive, sometimes even violent aspect of the self, that is, of any realization of one's own innermost truth. As such, he is indispensable for individuation. He embodies shadow impulses, dark effects and emotions, as well as the rage and aggression that sometimes accompany the process of increasing consciousness. On both the individual and collective levels, the night side of this individuation process has, and must have, these dark, dismal, and even frightening qualities. At the outset of every new phase in an individual's life, or of every new era on the collective level, whenever there is a change in the dominant archetypal symbol, the shadow side of renewal will not be absent. Humankind has never been immune to conflict and war. We need Seth's dark side, for it can serve the ongoing process of creative change. Even the Egyptians, accustomed to paradoxes, saw a scandal in the notion that Seth, the male whom Osiris detests, could be a defender of the sun god. For this concept to gain gradual acceptance on the part of the collective, time had to pass. While the Amduat touches on Apis and Seth only with reluctance, the later books of the Netherworld deal with it much more freely and less prejudicedly. This development mirrors the above-mentioned moral-ethical differentiation of the individual in the New Kingdom, which saw the individual endowed with unprecedented ethical responsibility. From then on, every deceased person, not just the pharaoh and his entourage, had to face the judgment of the dead and justify their deeds before Osiris. Everyone could become a blessed dead who accompanied Re in his sunbark. Everyone who encounters their shadow with unsparing candor must bear the humiliation of integrating Seth into creative consciousness. Only those who have encountered their own shadow, Seth, can withstand confrontation with absolute evil, Apophis. The individual must have experienced a rage in which they felt prepared almost to kill someone, perhaps even a loved one. In other words, the primitiveness that can suddenly overcome a person, sweeping away any and all noble intentions and ideals. Understanding that a powerful devil often hides behind a seemingly modest and polite demeanor is crucial. We must harbor no illusions. Seth lurks everywhere. But if we can accept him as an ever-present aspect of our lives, then he will, in all likelihood, be a helper and supporter at times. Even the shadow figures have two faces. Isis represents the feminine side of the divine pair, magically warding off Apophis. The magical abilities of this great goddess of life and love are well known in the myth of Osiris. She rescues Osiris from death and repeatedly protects the child Horus from the persecution of Seth, for she is the powerful healer and protectress of all who are helpless, and all who are afflicted with disease, pain, and sorrow. Small wonder, then, that she, above all others, stands in opposition to the terrifying Apophis serpent. As a typical representative of the great goddess, a figure we encountered earlier in the second nocturnal hour in the form of Hathor, Isis hates every form of standstill and stagnation. She does not shy away from confrontation when the dynamics of life are at stake. At such a time, she manifests as a fighting, militant, and aggressive goddess, like Hathor, the Mesopotamian Ishtar, and others. Her aggressiveness and emotionality, not seldom combined with her outstanding cunning, are often the only means of exorcising the paralyzing power of a deadly unconsciousness, Apophis. Isis and Seth are successful because of their magic powers. Such magic can be effective, but it need not necessarily be. For example, a chainman, using his magical skills to cast a hunting or love spell, was well aware that there was only a possibility that his magic would succeed. And this reckoning with its possibility is the secret to success. Generally, facing the paralyzing power of Apophis prevents us from successfully completing any significant creative act. Overcoming so deeply rooted an unconsciousness requires playful, creative activity, trying this and that possibility in the hope that, and reckoning with the possibility that, one of these magical practices will be able to evoke and inspire the creative spirit within the unconscious. Behind this phenomenon lies the principle of synchronicity, the probability that such playful, semi-conscious activity will suddenly hit upon an archetypal content constellated in the unconscious. In such an event, the energetic enrichment of the field of consciousness leads to a psychic revival and renewal. Since this is the case, C.G. Jung wrote in 1952 about synchronicity as creative acts, as the continuous creation of a pattern that exists from all eternity, repeats itself sporadically, and is not derivable from any known antecedents. Synchronicity breaks through the spell of the causality of all things mysteriously and magically. 6. This playful and creative magical power of the divine pair, or as we would put it today, this attitude that reckons with the grace of synchronistic events, then this threatening standstill of the sunbark. In the 4th hour, we have already encountered the motif of the standstill in the realm of Sokar, where the sun god was motionless before his renewal. Here, however, those in the sunbark must actively intervene in the struggle against Apophis, and even Re himself participates, casting magical spells. Psychologically speaking, we must endure a threatening stigmanation until new consciousness emerges from the depths of the collective unconscious. Not until this first germ of renewal becomes apparent and the new archetypal image gradually penetrates the consciousness can one truly face the standstill. Generally, the reward of fighting for something comes only after the psyche has established an archetypal foundation. Often, it is a dream that announces the coming renewal and transformation. The individual must then be attentive to avoid missing the crucial moment when it is time to begin defending the new. The same principle holds true on the collective level. Building political, social, or economic systems, or huge organizations, makes no sense if there is no true living spirit at work. Only the intimate connection with the hidden archetypal stream will endure, as it is the only thing capable of moving the individual's soul. Let us return once more to the motif of the two sisters at Osiris' tomb. We've already encountered them in the upper register of the 5th hour, depicted as two mourning birds guarding their brother's burial mound. Once again, a standstill threatens the development, and it's Isis, this time accompanied by her sister Nephthys, who overcomes her brother's death with her wailing. There is a beautiful symbolism in this imagery. Strong emotions, such as tears, outcries, and even rage, are sometimes necessary to bring psychic energy back to the forefront of consciousness. As we have seen, the moral coloring of this emotion is of no consequence. In psychological practice, it is sometimes a strong emotional reaction on the part of the analyst that supplies the decisive impetus for the continuation of a psychic process that has come to a standstill. Though patience and concern for the analyst are the rules, there are moments when empathetic restraint of the analyst's emotions can be careless and unprofessional. The archetypal image of Isis and Seth standing on the prow of the sunbark, battling Apophis with their respective weapons, reminds us of the sword of love, which Zen Buddhists and others say kills to make alive. At times, this sword is the only way to overcome the paralyzing power that, as a rule, accompanies every process of creation. An encounter with Apophis, the shadow's darkest and most dangerous form, kills the old being. Thus, it is not astonishing that we once again meet the corpse of the sun god in the following scene of the middle register. In 4 coffers, each with a sword on its lid, the sun god lies buried in his 4 most important forms of manifestation: Atum, Khepri, Re, and Osiris. This fourfold death of the sun god finds its echo in a widespread idea in Greek alchemical texts that originated in the intellectual ferment of the multicultural capital city of Alexandria at the dawn of the Christian era. According to these texts, the substance in the alchemical vessel, the alchemists call it the corpse, has to undergo and suffer a 4-fold transformation process. The alchemists refer to the 4-fold structure of everything that exists, which in fact mirrors the secret order of the whole universe. From a psychological perspective, the 4 stages of this transformation consist, as C.G. Jung puts it, of an unfolding of totality into 4 parts 4 times, which means nothing else than its becoming conscious. The 4 important functions of consciousness, thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition, differentiate the psychic contents into 4 aspects. A comprehensive description can only be achieved by elaborating on these 4 aspects. 7. Through this differentiation or careful analysis, the initially unconscious wholeness becomes conscious. This is how the analyst gradually realizes the self as a central organizing factor of the psyche, as opposed to ego psychology, which says that the ego is more likely to have the answer to a psychological problem than the creative potential of the unconscious. A woman in her 40s dream illustrates the fourfold structure of the psyche. She dreamed that she was playing cards with 3 others. She shuffled the cards and wanted to select one for herself. But whenever she tried to do so, one card started to move by itself and flew directly toward the person sitting opposite her. It was the card number 13. This reminded the dreamer of the number 13 in the tarot set, which signifies death. The realization of totality necessitates the differentiation of the personality's 4 aspects. Thus, the dream has 4 players, similar to the 4 representatives of the sun god. The dreamer still thinks she can choose a card by herself and handle her destiny, but obviously this is not. One of her cards flies, as if by magic, toward her partner, who sits opposite her. It reminds her of the number 13 in the tarot deck, the card that symbolizes the human fate of death and rebirth. The urge for continuous renewal of life repeatedly compels us to give up old values and convictions, that is, to sacrifice the old king. For instance, the illusion that I am free to live my life according to my will only. The dreamer's life is no longer in her ego's hands alone. The person facing her, on the opposite side, probably representing the non-ego or the self, seems to handle the card of destiny. Thus, the dream indicates a shift from the ego to the self, which is exactly what awareness of the alchemical process's fourfold structure implies. The 7th nocturnal hour's lower register beautifully illustrates life's incipient renewal. It begins with an image of the falcon-headed Horus, who holds the was scepter, symbolizing well-being and happiness, and the Ankh hieroglyph, symbolizing life, in his hands and bears a sun disk on his head. In his subterranean form, he watches over 12 male and 12 female deities, each carrying a star on their head. The accompanying texts reveal their meaning and function. The meaning of Horus and the star gods is revealed above. What Horus needs to accomplish in the netherworld, to make the star gods move and establish hourly positions within the network.